I have awakened in thy shelter, oh my God, and it becometh him that seeketh that shelter to abide within the sanctuary of thy protection and the stronghold of thy defense. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my outer being with the morning light of thy favor. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hushan. Good morning, Jeremiah. And good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. I don't know, has anyone checked in yet, Nini? Okay. And good morning, Nini. How you doing, sweetheart?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. Good morning, everybody.
That's good. That's good. Yes. And Daryl, as you can see, is not with us today. As you know, as we said last week, maybe you weren't here last week, but our dear friend Carl Stefan passed away, and today they are holding his funeral. It's a little bit of a drive from here. Good morning, Gilbert. But that's why Daryl isn't here. He's attending Carl's funeral. So please keep Carl's soul in your prayers as he progresses through the worlds of God, going to the next level of existence. And please pray for strength for his family. So let's move on and have a prayer. O thou kind Lord, O thou who art generous and merciful, we are the servants of thy threshold and are gathered beneath the sheltering shadow of thy divine unity. The sun of thy mercy is shining upon all, and the clouds of thy bounty shower upon all. Thy gifts encompass all, thy loving providence sustains all, thy protection overshadows all, and the glances of thy favor are cast upon all. O Lord, grant thine infinite bestowals, and let the light of thy guidance shine. Illumine the eyes, gladden the hearts with abiding joy. Confer a new spirit upon all people and bestow upon them eternal life. Unlock the gates of true understanding and let the light of faith shine resplendent. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty and cause them to unite in harmony, so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain. May they be refreshed by the same breeze. May they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent. And this is a prayer by Abdu'l-Baha. Allahu Akbar. Now, as you know, over the last I can't believe I did this. I left my book on the table over there. But as you know, we've been are coming to the end very, very soon of the book that we have been studying for a few months now. Thank you, Nini. I left it out in the next room, in the living room. But the book, of course, is Toward Oneness. By now, if you've been following us, if you've been joining us, I should say, you know, the book is Toward Oneness. And we're down to, I think, about the last 10 pages of this book, something like that. And of course, what we're doing is studying the problem of racial prejudice, most specifically, even more specifically, racial prejudice here in America, and what should be done about it, and how does the Baha'i faith figure into that? And so this is the book we've been studying, and I know there's a couple of things I want to say. I'm being rushed here. There's a companion book we had considered moving on to as our next book. Well, we for various reasons had a different change, but if you had a different idea. If you would like, however, to do a self-study, continuing to have a self-study in this vein, this is its companion book, Toward Oneness and Freedom from Racial Prejudice. Toward Oneness and Freedom from Racial Prejudice. Again, that's not the book we're going to be going to, but you might want to get that book for your own reading. The book, however, that we will be switching to when we are finished with Toward Oneness is this book here, a wonderful book called Baha'u'llah and the New Era. Baha'u'llah and the New Era. I'm moving it for our Facebook camera here. Baha'u'llah, should I put it closer? Okay, Baha'u'llah and the New Era. It is a wonderful study. I'm saying that only because I am currently reading the book. I'm sure millions and millions of Baha'is have read this book. They've had multiple printings. This is not even the latest edition. It's a recent edition, but not the latest edition. But Baha'u'llah and the New Era, an introduction to the Baha'i faith. So if you are a seasoned Baha'i, a new Baha'i, a friend of the faith, or a seeker, this book is a very, very appropriate, and I would dare say interesting book to read. So we hope that you follow along with us. And of course, you can get your own copy. You can get it from Baha'i Publishing Trust, and you can also get it on Amazon. So that'll be our next book. And now that we've got that little bit of business out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's readings. Now, last week, we ended actually with the passage number 132. In this particular edition, that passage is on page 52, but passage number 132. We didn't actually finish the entire passage, so I'm going to start from the beginning because it asks a question. And the question is, what is the role African Americans must play in eliminating prejudice? What is the role African Americans must play in eliminating prejudice? And here is the answer. He being the guardian, Shoghi Effendi, he, the guardian, is well aware that the conditions within the ranks of the believers in respect to race prejudice are far from being as they should be. So even we have that issue. However, he feels strongly that it presents a challenge to both white and colored believers. As we neither feel nor acknowledge any distinction between the duties and privileges of a Baha'i, whoever he may be, it is incumbent upon the Negro believers to rise above this great test which the attitude of some of their white brethren may present. They must prove their innate equality, not by words, but by deeds. They must accept the cause of Baha'u'llah for the sake of the cause, love it and cling to it, and teach it, and fight for it as their own cause, forgetful of the shortcomings of others. Any other attitude is unworthy of their faith. Any other attitude is unworthy of their faith. So we read that last week. Now we're going to continue. proud and happy in the praises which even Baha'u'llah himself has bestowed upon them, they must feel he revealed himself for them and every other downtrodden race, loves them, and will help them to attain their destiny. I'm going to read that again. Proud and happy in the praises which even Baha'u'llah himself has bestowed upon them, they must feel he revealed himself for them and every other downtrodden race, loves them, and will help them to attain their destiny. The whole race question in America is a national one and of great importance. But the Negro friends must not waste their precious opportunity to serve the faith in these momentous days by dwelling on the admitted shortcomings of the white friends. I'll read that again. The Negro friends must not waste their precious opportunity to serve the faith in these momentous days by dwelling on the admitted shortcomings of the white friends. They must arise and serve and teach, confident of the future they are building, a future in which we know these barriers will have once and for all been overcome. And that's on behalf of Shoghi Effendi in a great book called The Pupil of the Eye. To continue, this is the next passage, passage 133. Let the Negroes, through a corresponding let the Negroes, through a corresponding effort on their part, show by every means in their power the warmth of their response, their readiness to forget the past, and their ability to wipe out every trace of suspicion that may still linger in their hearts and minds. And I can tell you, as an African American myself, this is a momentous challenge that you have to put a lot of effort into, because there are constant little, maybe I shouldn't say constant, but often little reminders of the past, and sometimes even the way some people feel about the present. And often we end up kind of painting with a wide brush. So we are told that we have to wipe out every trace of suspicion that may still linger in their hearts and minds. To continue, The Guardian feels very strongly that the Negro Baha'is have great responsibilities, both towards their own race and towards their fellow believers. And I think it's important that, while we've said this before, I again want to remind you that we are told in the faith and also anthropology, there's only one race. But in the minds of many people, that's not the way they think. So in the writings from Shoghi Effendi and Abdul Baha, they use the language that people understand, let's put it that way. So the Guardian feels very strongly that the Negro Baha'is have great responsibilities, both towards their own race and towards their fellow believers. They must not only arise to teach the cause to the members of their own race, but must do all in their power to ensure that within their Baha'i community itself, the Negro and white believers understand and love each other and are truly as one soul in different bodies. Are truly as one soul in different bodies. Now this next line, it's all important, I always say, but this line is very provocative. Our allegiance as believers is to Baha'u'llah. Our allegiance as believers is to Baha'u'llah. We must fix our attention and devotion on him and his will, and heedless of the shortcomings of our fellow Baha'is, act as he would have us towards them. Act as he would have us towards them. You know, it's so easy, as we've often pointed out, and as Abdul Baha often pointed out to us, it's so easy to look at others, even the people that we care about, and dwell on their shortcomings, and dwell on, obviously, their flaws and their faults. And what we're told here is we must fix our attention and devotion on Baha'u'llah and his will, and heedless of the shortcomings of our fellow Baha'is, act as he would have us towards them. Now we're moving to a new question here. What must both black and white do to address this issue? What must both black and white do to address this issue? And if you were listening just a moment ago, I mentioned something about we need to be careful about painting with too wide a brush. And this kind of speaks to that. What must both black and white do to address this issue? Good morning, Andy.
Morning.
Here's the beginning of the response. What must both black and white do to address this issue? And this is coming from Abdu'l-Baha, I should point out. But I wish to say one thing in order that the blacks may become, this is the, oh boy, if you are African American, you might even feel a little uncomfortable hearing this. I'm going to read it anyway because there's truth there. But I wish to say one thing in order that the blacks may become grateful to the whites and the whites become loving toward the blacks. He says, if you go to Africa, this was back in the 1920s, if you go to Africa, I should say early 1900s, but anyway, if you go to Africa and see the blacks of Africa, you'll realize how much progress you have made. Praise be to God. Abdu'l-Baha says, you are like the whites. There are no great distinctions left, but the blacks of Africa are treated as servants. The first proclamation of emancipation for the blacks was made by the whites of America. How they fought and sacrificed until they freed the blacks. Then it spread to other places. The blacks of Africa were in complete bondage, but your emancipation led to their freedom also. That is, the European states emulated the Americans, and the Emancipation Proclamation became universal. I lost my place there. Emulated the Americans, and the Emancipation Proclamation became universal. It was for your sake that the whites of America made such an effort. Were it not for this effort, universal emancipation would not have been proclaimed. And I'm sure if any one of African descent is listening to this, if you're African American at least, you're probably questioning the accuracy of that statement. But if you were to go back and read some history books, you'd find out that even in the earliest beginnings of the NAACP, there were white members. Even in the days of the slave trade, there were white people working for the emancipation of enslaved Africans. There were whites who worked on the Underground Railroad that we hear so much connected with Harriet Tubman. And of course, many African American slaves, many enslaved Africans here in the United States, if they were successful in escaping, where'd they go? They went to Canada because they knew it was safe there as well. But I mean, what Abdu'l-Baha is pointing out here is you have to face the fact that there were many whites who were working to free enslaved people of African descent. Therefore, you must be very grateful to the whites of America, and the whites must become very loving toward you so that you may progress in all human grades. Strive jointly to make extraordinary progress and mix together completely. Wow. Strive jointly to make extraordinary progress and mix together completely. In short, and again, he's still speaking to African Americans, in short, you must be very thankful to the whites who were the cause of your freedom in America. Had you not been freed, other blacks would not have been freed either. And I must admit, I had never made that connection before reading this. I had never made that connection. I always looked at those as, separate processes and not part of all one, general process. Had you not been freed, other blacks would not have been freed either. Now, praise be to God, everyone is free and lives in tranquility. At that time, maybe. I pray that you attain to such a degree of good character and behavior that the names of black and white shall vanish. Again, this is Abdu'l-Baha I pray that you attain to such a degree of good character and behavior that the names of black and white shall vanish. All shall be called human, just as the name for a flight of doves is dove. They are not called black and white, likewise with other birds. I hope, again, continuing with Abdu'l-Baha, I hope that you attain to such a high degree, and this is impossible except through love. This is impossible except through love. You must try to create love between yourselves. And this love does not come about unless you are grateful to the whites and the whites are loving toward you and endeavor to promote your advancement and enhance your honor. I'll read that again. You must try to create love between yourselves. And this love does not come about unless you are grateful to the whites and the whites are loving toward you and endeavor to promote your advancement and enhance your honor. This will be the cause of love. Differences between black and white will be completely obliterated. Indeed, ethnic and national differences will all disappear. And obviously we haven't reached that point yet, but again, this is a long process that we are moving forward in. And again, that's coming from Abdu'l-Baha. It sounded very fatherly to me in the way that was written. Moving on, same question, what must both black and white do to address this issue? A tremendous effort is required by both races if their outlook, their manners, and conduct are to reflect in this darkened age the spirit and teachings of the faith of Baha'u'llah. Remember, that's still the foundation of everything that we're trying to accomplish, the faith of Baha'u'llah. A tremendous effort is required by both races if their outlook, their manners, and conduct are to reflect in this darkened age the spirit and teachings of the faith of Baha'u'llah. Casting away once and for all the fallacious doctrine of racial superiority and with all its attendant evils, confusions, and miseries, and welcoming and encouraging the intermixture of races, and tearing down the barriers that now divide them. They should each endeavor day and night to fulfill their particular responsibilities in the common task which so urgently faces them. That's from Shoghi Effendi. Moving on, also from Shoghi Effendi. White and Negro, high and low, young and old, whether newly converted to the faith or not, all who stand identified with it must participate in and lend their assistance, each according to his or her capacity, experience, and opportunities, to the common task of fulfilling the instructions, realizing the hopes, and following the example of Abdu'l-Baha. Whether colored or non-colored, neither race has the right or can consciously claim to be regarded as absolved from such an obligation, as having realized such hopes or having faithfully followed such an example. Neither race has that right. A long and thorny road beset with pitfalls still remains untraveled. I love that. I often say that I have difficulty with Shoghi Effendi, but this is Shoghi Effendi, and I love the way he said that. A long and thorny road beset with pitfalls still remains untraveled, both by the white and the Negro exponents of the redeeming faith of Baha'u'llah. The redeeming faith of Baha'u'llah. Continuing with Shoghi Effendi. He says, both sides, whites and blacks, have prejudices to overcome. Yes, both sides, whites and blacks, have prejudices to overcome. One, the prejudice which is built up in the minds of a people who have conquered and imposed their will, and the other, the reactionary prejudice of those who have been conquered and sorely put upon. Both sides, whites and blacks, have prejudices to overcome. I look at this as superiority and suspicion. On the one hand, you have these people that have this prejudicial sense of superiority, and on the other, you have a people who have a sense of suspicion about anyone who looks like those other people because they question whether they can trust them or not. Both sides, whites and blacks, have prejudices to overcome. One, the prejudice which is built up in the minds of a people who have conquered and imposed their will, and the other, the reactionary prejudice of those who have been conquered and sorely put upon. Again, that's coming from Shoghi Effendi. Moving on to a new question. I don't know, maybe I should stop and do song notes. 10:30, you think? Okay. Yeah, we'll read that question after this. As we said in the beginning, that Daryl isn't here because he's at this time now attending the funeral of our friend who passed on, Carl Stefan. And I want to thank Nini for suggesting this song because frankly, I was questioning, I don't know what to play. And she suggested this song, which is about making the transition through death. It is called The Soul Goes On. And that is not the right beat. Excuse me. That is definitely not the right. Okay. Don't know how I made that mistake. There we go. This life we share has good and evil too. Sometimes there's tears and sometimes laughter. Something to learn for everything you do. The soul you are is forever after. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. You won't be here forever. One day you'll have to go. From here to there, you're just switching places. You're leaving the physical and going to the spiritual. You'll get there and you'll see familiar faces. The soul goes on. 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 Don't know what heaven's like, don't need to know. Whatever it is, you'll see when you get there. Everybody's got some seed, we all just need to sow. Do what good you can now, don't just sit there. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. The soul goes on. God tells us death is a messenger of joy. He says you got no need to grieve. Your last day here on earth is your first in the Abha kingdom. When the prison of the body sets the spirit free. God gave you life and man gave you a name. How you lived and learned is all you've got. Let virtue be your wealth and love all just the same. Don't let this time be all for naught. The soul goes on. The soul goes on.
Soul goes on.
The soul goes on.
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 Soul goes on. Soul goes on. Soul goes on.
Soul goes on. So for those of you who wonder, what happens to us when we leave it, we're actually told, we're not meant to know that yet. But it's good to know that the end of this form of existence is not the end of existence. The soul goes on. So let's see if we can maybe get through a couple of other passages. The next question, actually the answer to this one is rather brief, so yeah, we'll definitely get through this next one. And the next question is, and this is specifically about the Baha'is themselves. Can we achieve real progress if the rank and file of believers is not involved in solving this problem? I'll read that again. Can we achieve real progress if the rank and file of believers is not involved in solving this problem? Here's your answer, and this is coming from the Universal House of Justice. However, there are practical limits to what can be accomplished through appeals and exhortations, and based on past readings, that's a reference to things that have been done by other people in society in dealing with the racial issues. However, there are practical limits to what can be accomplished through appeals and exhortations. Ultimately, any real progress depends upon the sustained, audacious, and sincere efforts of the rank and file of believers, guided and motivated by the sacred writings and the letters of Shoghi Effendi. And before I continue, I should also point out that wasn't just to other efforts. That also was, greater efforts by Baha'i institutions. And what this is saying is, no, that's not enough. I'll begin that answer again. However, there are practical limits to what can be accomplished through appeals and exhortations. Ultimately, any real progress depends upon the sustained, audacious, and sincere efforts of the rank and file of believers, guided and motivated by the sacred writings and the letters of Shoghi Effendi, working in harmony with the local spiritual assemblies, using Baha'i consultation to bring about a change in attitude and behavior. Clearly, all elements of the community must eventually be drawn into this activity. The problem did not appear overnight, however, and the process of healing centuries-old wounds will take time, tremendous perseverance, and effort. This is a huge undertaking. It is recommended that you read the biography of the Hand of the Cause, Louis Gregory, To Move the World, for the insights and inspiration which his courageous people affords. I'll read that again. It's recommended that you read the biography of the Hand of the Cause, Louis Gregory, To Move the World, that's the name of the book, for the insights and inspiration which his courageous example affords. And it is an actual book that is still in print. Here it is, To Move the World. And this is another book that I'm just holding up just for the purpose of showing you the book. But Louis Gregory, again, Hand of the Cause, has a very interesting story. We obviously can't take time to go through it right now, but he was an African-American Baha'i, and very, very interesting life. So yeah, but it's a reference to that book to show you how important his life was. First of all, a book was written about it, but secondly, it is recommended that you read the biography of the Hand of the Cause, Louis Gregory, To Move the World, for the insights and inspiration which his courageous example affords. The House of Justice is confident that if you will turn your heart to Baha'u'llah, study the teachings, and undertake to sincerely apply the remedy outlined therein, that you can yourself make a worthy contribution to the amelioration of this scourge which has so long beset the American people. And that is our last passage, but I'm going to read that last statement again. The House of Justice is confident that, and this is the part I want to emphasize, if you will turn your heart to Baha'u'llah, study the teachings, and undertake to sincerely apply the remedy outlined therein, that you can yourself make a worthy contribution to the amelioration of this scourge of prejudice. I'm putting that in brackets, of prejudice. This scourge of prejudice, which has so long beset the American people. And so we are going to stop our reading there for today. And as always, we're going to be moving on now to a time where anyone who would like to share a prayer or a reading of your own choosing or a song of your own choosing. This is that time. And of course, as always, we always like to start with our Andy Murphy moment. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing
Wonderful.
quite a bit better than I was last week.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. You have something to share with us today?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
God is one, man is one, and all the religions are one. Land and sea, hill and valley, under the beautiful sun. God is one, man is one, and all the religions agree. When everyone loves the three onenesses, we'll have world unity. When everyone loves the three onenesses, we'll have world unity.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to share? Anyone? Well, I would like to offer up another prayer again for the passage of our friend Carl. This is a prayer for the departed. Glory be to thee, O Lord my God. Abase not him whom thou hast exalted through the power of thine everlasting sovereignty, and remove not far from thee him whom thou hast caused to enter the tabernacle of thine eternity. Wilt thou cast away, O my God, him whom thou hast overshadowed with thy lordship, And wilt thou turn away from thee, O my desire, him to whom thou hast been a refuge? Canst thou degrade him whom thou hast uplifted, or forget him whom thou didst enable to remember thee? Glorified, immensely glorified art thou. Thou art he who from everlasting hath been the king of the entire creation and its prime mover. And thou wilt to everlasting remain the Lord of all created things and their ordainer. Glorified art thou, O my God. If thou ceasest to be merciful unto thy servants, who then will show mercy unto them? And if thou refusest to succor thy loved ones, who is there that can succor them? Glorified, immeasurably glorified art thou. Thou art adored in thy truth, and thee do we all verily worship. And thou art manifest in thy justice, and to thee do we all verily bear witness. Thou art in truth beloved in thy grace. No God is there but thee, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. And this is a prayer by Baha'u'llah. Let me change my view here for a moment. There we go. Well, folks, and again, as you know, we always like to point out that this is a joint community effort, several different communities coming together to bring this to you. And of course, if you happen to be sharing in the Zoom, whether it be again when we actually record the program or afterwards, it is through the kindness of the Clearwater Baha'is here in Clearwater, Florida, the Clearwater Baha'is that make that possible. And if you would like to get more information about the Baha'i Faith, or just get easy, free access to the Baha'i writings and other related material, there are some definitive websites that we always like to remind you of. And these are those websites. You have, again, www.baha'i.org, www.baha'i.us, www.bahaiteachings.org, and there is a wealth of information and videos and so forth that are being made available all the time by the Clearwater Baha'is. Often joining us here in Zoom, I say often, almost always joining us here in Zoom, is Gilbert Hakim, who is just a wonderfully knowledgeable individual. He's here with us now. I hope I'm not embarrassing you, Gilbert, but a wonderfully knowledgeable individual that has done just countless talks about various aspects of the faith, and you can find his videos, among others, at, again, www.clearwaterbaha'is.org. And we used to always announce, and now keep forgetting to do so, that after this program, which is videotaped at 9 o'clock, I'm sorry, at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, following this is another program on the clearwaterbaha'is.org website with a variety of teachers, sometimes Mr. Hakim, that are sharing with you various aspects of spiritual issues and so forth, and that relate to, the lives we are living today, and the challenges and so forth that are associated with maintaining spiritual presence here in our lives. Yes, so with that being said, it's only 10:48, and I know it's not as if we have to kill time, so I don't look at this as killing time, but I do want to use these last couple of minutes that we have to once again remind you, anyone who, again, wants to be able to follow along with us, the book that we will be beginning probably a couple of weeks from now, I'm thinking. This will be, again, our next book. It is Baha'u'llah and the New Era, an introduction to the Baha'i Faith. It is a wonderful resource. It's very interesting, and if you are, whether you are a seasoned Baha'i, a new Baha'i, a person who is just curious about what's this Baha'i Faith thing all about, or maybe even a friend of the faith who knows about the faith and still continues to want to just learn more, this is a wonderful resource, and I strongly, I'm promoting it because I feel like, This is a book that is a worthy book to be on anyone's shelf. It is, I hadn't even seen the price, but here on the back of it, here in the US, it's $14. And you can get it through Baha'i Publishing Trust. And you can also get it, it's available on Amazon. And I don't know what the price is on Amazon, but here it's printed on the back of this. You know, I don't know what the price is now. I forgot how old my book is. But here it says $14. It's probably more now, so perhaps I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, that being said, if Daryl were here, we all know what he would say. He would say that no matter where you are, as you go about your week, no matter what you're doing, always make sure that you take some time and share the love with everyone that you know, whose path you cross. We all know that there are many, many different ways to do that. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do. Sometimes it can become more of a challenge, but still it's something we always need to be working to do. And this next song, this last song we're going to do, is not the regular song that we normally do, but it's a song that I think speaks to that. And it's called Reach Out.
Someone who don't know your name, but need some love just the same. When was the last time you reached out? When was the last time you helped a stranger? Pouring cold and lonely, somebody in danger.
Somebody in danger.
Somebody's child in need. Could be the one that you feed. When was the last time you reached out?
Reach out.
You could be a blessing to somebody in need. You could be that angel somebody's hoping to see. Someone who's given up, whose spirit needs some lifting up now. When was the last time you reached out?
Reach out. A blessing to somebody in need. You could be that angel somebody's hoping to see. Someone who's given up, whose spirit needs some lifting up now. When was the last time you reached out? Reach out.
So reach out. Reach out.
Reach out.
Just reach out.
Reach out.
Reach out. Reach out. Just reach out.
Reach out. Reach out.
When was the last time you reached out?
Reach out, folks. Someone out there can use your help, your love. Yeah. Have a good one. Share the love.